Being a professional musician has its ups and downs. It's mostly ups. But of course, there are times where you have very little work, January, February, for example. But we've got to adapt. We've got to make all sorts of things happen. We've got to open lots and lots of doors, even things that you don't think you can do or don't think you want to do. Let's have a look. I have a little crib sheet here because I've made a list of all the things that I do, and it adds up to 15. Yeah, okay. Now, some of these are passive income. Rather, it's stuff that you've done in the past that pays out every quarter or every month or whatever it happens to be. A musician friend of mine said, make money while you sleep. And I thought, that sounds like quite a nice idea, really, because it can be really hard. But it's nice when suddenly something lands on the doorstep. Well, it goes in via an electronic transfer now, but things like library music. If you're just playing a piece on the piano, and saying, okay, that's part of my chill out album, which I'm going to upload to a library company, and then you see a documentary with a dolphin swimming through and you hear your tune there, and of course you see a taste of the gig for that. Now, of the 15, 4 of them are teaching jobs. Now, I only teach about a day and a bit per week. So you have 4 teaching jobs. If you lose one, it doesn't matter. Or if you change job, or if one job goes down in money, or you lose pupils at somewhere, it doesn't really make a massive difference if you've got all the other stuff. Now, of course, gigs, they vanished during the coronavirus pandemic, and actually they're only just coming back now, and that was actually a big part of income. So of course, it's taken a hit. But there are other things that can be done, especially if you maybe haven't got any gigs, or if the band has disbanded, or the venue's closed. There are still things that you can do. Now, recording sessions. We live in an era now where you have the ability to be able to send a WAV file, or send an MP3, or send this or send that, and you can work with a tempo. Now, I've worked with musicians over the lockdown on various things, and they've all got a computer that they can record on. They've all got a mic, and you just say, I'd like this part, please, and send a PDF of the chord chart, or the sort of bass or treble clef, or whatever it happens to be. And then you get that thing back. And of course you say, well, it's £100 and you haven't had to leave your house. Now, this is going to continue. And actually, before the coronavirus pandemic took hold, actually people did operate in that manner. The downside being, of course, that you don't have a producer at the time. So you can go backwards and forwards a bit with saying, oh, can we have this? Whereas if there's a producer, if there's an intermediary between the sort of the songwriter and the musician, it can be all ironed out at the time. So there is a downside to that. Now, I'm a music examiner as well, so I go and hear candidates. I generally offer a week or 2 per school term, and so I'll go away for a week and do some examining. It's really useful, really good sort of chunk of income, especially if it's at the end of term and you're paid at the beginning of term for your pupils. So, yeah, it's all good. YouTube filmmaking. This is on YouTube, and every time somebody clicks on one of my videos, of course, there's a little advert that comes before it. If it's a long video, you'll see adverts in the middle. You do need 1,000 subscribers in order to start making money. That's the downside. But once you have 1,000 subscribers, you can build your channel up, and, it pays your utility bills, for example. A mate of mine who got me into it, he said, it pays a mortgage. It was like a throwaway line for him. And I said, pardon? What? He said, yeah, it pays mortgage. I think, okay. So it's not a bad thing. Now, of course, with that in mind, things like online stuff, library music, PRS, PPL, PRS, Performing Rights Society. So basically all the library music that I send off, including that little thing that I played there, if it gets used, you see a taste of it. Now, of course, it might be 8.4 pence, but it might get used twice. It might get used in different territories. One must never think that something is not worth doing because it's not worth very much money. Because if you do 15 things and they're all worth a little bit of money, you suddenly go, that's been all right. Of course, it's been a bit of a hit through the COVID-19, but there's still bits and pieces trickling in. Now, lectures and workshops, if you have a particular skill, musical skill or engineering, you can book into a local, a school, college. You can even give demos online. You can charge for those online if you have like a pay per view thing where you can show people how to use a mixing desk or a computer or indeed musical instrument tuition, that sort of thing. Studio installation. I trained at EMI in London back in the 1990s as an electronic maintenance engineer. My degree's in electronic engineering, not music, but I've always been a full-time musician. So I do studio installations for people and also fixing stuff. So those two come under very different banners because I'll go to somebody's premises and maybe stay for 2 or 3 days in a hotel somewhere and basically construct their studio from the ground up. Now, arrangements. I've been given the task of simply arranging parts for the brass parts for a tune or backing vocals where I'm not doing them, but I'm simply paid to arrange them. So you just send back an arrangement. You can even send it back as a sort of a guide file or a guide track. Jam nights. I do community work as well, which is, it is paid, but I do jam nights at the local pub. So you get people coming in and you run a night, and that's another source of income. And then royalties from previous albums. I did a band over 10 years ago now. In fact, we started sort of 2003 and sort of till about 2010, 11. And during that time, we made some records and they sold okay in Japan. They did quite well in Japan. And so I occasionally think, where's that come from? I don't recognise that, but it's 150 quid. Well, great. Thank you very much. Now, of course, you need to keep on top of all of these things. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I set up a Ko-fi account and a Patreon page. Now, of course, you're getting paid in all sorts of currencies from all over the world. And of course, you've got to log everything. The downside of being a professional musician is that you've got to keep books that are meticulous, absolutely just dotted I's and crossed T's, because you have to make sure that you're not going to get caught out for some tax from somewhere. If you do online stuff, sometimes you have to sign a tax agreement with another country. For example, I've just had to do one for the US for my Google account for YouTube revenue. You just say and no withholding tax comes. So there is a lot to do. There's a lot of emailing, a lot of sitting down and doing your books, which of course you're not paid for. But the upside is, of course, that my job is my hobby and will remain so forever.